So for the past few weeks, I have been developing my first ever iOS app, and I created this app entirely by using vibe coding. So that means I was using Claude Code. I just used prompts, and I was able to create this app and actually publish it on the App Store, so anybody can download it, you can use it. And it was a really good experience, and I want to share some lessons that I learned along the way and show you the app that I built. Okay, so this is the app. And the whole purpose of the app is to help you create positive affirmation audio tracks. So these are audio tracks that you can listen to that have affirmations that you can actually create yourself so that you can achieve your goals more quickly, because it helps you remember what you're working towards and helps you cultivate a positive mindset. So I have a bunch of them already created here, but let's make a new one. So it starts out by asking you if you want to do a guided version or the manual version. And guided lets you answer a few questions. So let's see, it asks what's your number one goal right now? And my number one goal right now is to add 10 pounds of muscle. Okay. And then it says, what is your biggest weakness? I eat too much junk food. And then it says, describe your ideal living situation. I want to live on the beach in Miami. Okay, then we hit finish. Now it's going to generate some positive affirmations to help me achieve my goals. It says, I'm building a strong and muscular body. I choose nourishing foods that support my fitness goals. And now what you can do is you can choose a background audio. So I'm going to choose this one. And then you can choose how many seconds of silence you want in between each affirmation. And then you can choose the total number of repetitions. So let's just do one repetition just for the demo's sake. Now we're going to generate the audio. Okay, now let's hear the affirmation that it created.
I am building a strong and muscular body. I choose nourishing foods that support my fitness goals. I take consistent steps towards my beach lifestyle dream.
Okay, so you can see it works. And yeah, I think it's a really good tool if you are the kind of person that wants to cultivate a positive mindset. And if you're into visualization and these kind of things, I think this app can help you a lot. Okay, so now I want to talk about how I built this and some tips I can give to you if you also want to start building apps and actually get real users and maybe even make money from your apps that you vibe code. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is if you're a total beginner when it comes to coding and app development, the first concept you need to have is the difference between front end and back end. Okay, so front end is basically the visuals of the app, right? Making the design, deciding where all the buttons go, how it looks, and all that stuff. And then back end is how you actually have the core functionality of the app. So back end, what back end really looks like is it's about building something called an API. So an API is just an interface that's going to let you or let the user access the core data of your app. So these two things, front end and back end, are completely different, and you need to have both in order to have a functioning app. So my advice to you when you are building your app, when you're vibe coding, is I would set up a folder for your project, and literally in that folder, create one folder called front end and create another folder called back end. And then when you initiate your Claude Code session, initiate it in the parent folder. So let me kind of make this a bit more visual. Actually, let's do it like this. So this little box here, that's your parent folder, and you're going to have these two subfolders, front end and back end. And you're going to initiate your Claude Code session in this parent folder. And the reason I'm telling you to do this is because in the beginning, I wasn't sure about the limitations of Claude Code. I thought that it wouldn't be able to kind of handle this much complexity of doing both the front end and the back end. But what I found is that it's actually a lot more efficient to just let it take care of the whole thing. It actually can handle that much complexity. Okay, now I kind of want to show you my setup for vibe coding. I use Terminal here, and for this app that I built, I have 3 different Claude Code sessions. And the way I did it is not what I just told you, which is that I actually created a separate Claude Code instance for the front end and the back end. So it's something that I kind of regret because I have to manage these two parts, and one session doesn't have knowledge about what's happening in the other one. So whenever I make an update to my backend, I have to tell my front-end Claude Code session about the changes I made. But I guess the one advantage of doing it this way is that you can kind of get some advantages of parallelism. So I could tell Claude Code to start some task in the front end, and then I could switch to my other session and have it start a task for the back end. Now, my advice when it comes to doing the back end is I would use AWS. So if you don't know, AWS is Amazon Web Services, and they are the largest cloud provider in the world. And they actually have some really good tools for creating apps, creating websites, creating all kinds of things, specifically the actual back end of these things. So in my case, I'm using quite a few of their tools to create the back end of my app. And the first one is called Lambda. I'm going to put in the icon here. So they have a tool called Lambda, which is basically serverless functions. So in my app, you saw that I was able to generate these affirmation audio tracks, right? So in order to do that, I need some compute power, right? I need some kind of servers to run my code on. So I am running this code on these Lambda serverless functions, which really the advantage of this is instead of you having a dedicated server that's running 24/7, running the code, what a serverless function does is it allows you to only run the machine when there is a request coming in. So for example, if nobody's using my app all day, then I'm not paying for my server. But as soon as one request comes in, then Amazon is going to spin up a new instance of a serverless function, and it's going to run the code, and then as soon as it's done, it's going to shut down that machine. So it's very ephemeral, and because of that, it's very cost effective. You're only paying when people are actually putting requests through your app. So that's the first tool I used. Then the other one is called API Gateway. Put in another icon here. So API Gateway lets you create APIs pretty easily. And it plays really well with Lambda because you can basically define all your API endpoints in API Gateway, and then you can tell it to fulfill those endpoints with your serverless functions. So you can kind of think of API Gateway as defining the interface, and then the serverless functions is actually fulfilling those jobs and actually getting the compute done. So I used these tools. What else did I use? By the way, this is what AWS looks like. And actually, by the way, all of this that I've been doing has been for free because when you sign up for AWS, you get 200 credits, about $200 worth of credits, which you can use to learn how to use AWS. So I still haven't even used up all my credits. And the other tool that I used is called S3. So S3 is AWS's storage tool. And whenever somebody creates an affirmation audio in my app, that audio is getting stored in S3. So you can kind of think of S3 as like Google Drive or OneDrive. It's basically an online hard drive. Oh, and of course, another very important tool is the database. AWS also has solutions for databases. So I'm using something called RDS. And that is how I am storing all the data that I need to related to my users' accounts, the affirmations they create, all that stuff. Now, if you're a total beginner when it comes to tech and you can't learn these things or you don't want to, the cool thing is that all of these tools can be defined using code. And that means that Claude Code can actually create these resources for you. So if you just kind of get a basic understanding of what each part does, you can then tell Claude Code to actually provision these infrastructure elements of your app automatically. So you don't actually have to worry about it. But of course, the only risk with this is that this infrastructure actually costs money, right? So these servers, it's not free. So you do have to be a little bit careful to make sure that you don't have Claude, setting up infrastructure that you end up paying lots of money for, and it was a mistake. So you do have to have some familiarity to make sure you don't go spending too much money. But I mean, the powers of Claude Code and vibe coding are very strong, and you can actually build apps and ship them, get them on the App Store, get users, and all of that good stuff.